So on number 7, we're doing the final approval of the comprehensive safety plan policy from the March 2024 updates. And I just wanted to flag at this point, I know that there was a lot of work over the summer, and there were some workshops attended, and ultimately that will be coming forward to the board, the comprehensive safety plans. And so I just wanted to flag that prior to it coming, I'd like to have some sort of a briefing. It feels like sometimes some of these big items come forward and we don't have a lot of time to review them before they are approved. So I'd just like to flag that when that safety plan comes forward, I would like to have a little bit of advanced discussion about it with staff to understand it best. And then with the Williams complaint regarding the missing soap dispensers, it does look like that item was resolved already, but I understand that there's already been some vandalism in the bathrooms at the first day of school. And I'm just wondering if this is something that, as we go through the first part of the year, if we'll be looking at maybe shifting how we look at this, what are root causes, what could we potentially do to make a shift so that it's not so appealing to do this vandalism. And that is it
for the soap thing. Out of curiosity,
There, Jenny.
like, do we have to use a certain kind or something?
No, there is a requirement to have water and soap in bathrooms, and toilet paper and paper towels. And our custodial staff does an admirable job of keeping those in place and operational as long as they aren't kicked off the wall or shoved in a toilet or horrible, disgusting things that I won't belabor this board with that we find in the restrooms. There's this misconception out there that there's things like vandal proof. No, it's vandal resistant. And when you have students jumping on top of them and literally throwing their entire bodies onto them, that's a problem. It doesn't matter what kind of unit it is. Well, how we're trying to resolve that going forward is creative bathroom design. And so we're starting to recess our paper towels, recess our toilet paper, our accessories, including soap. So as our new CTE building and future modernization of projects, we're really taking that into consideration. And in between now and when those happen, we're just kind of combating that effort.
Soap on a rope isn't a good idea.
No. They might do something else with that. I don't even want to know.
There.
But I did talk to leadership and I asked them to kind of help with this. And I told them how much money we spent last year on just vandalism, which was about $40,000 extra in custodial supplies, labor, time, effort, and energy, and replacement of lost product. And I said, wow, wouldn't that be cool if we just give that to the student body and you could do something cool with it instead of this? So no, I know that the site administration did that welcome back, and they were really encouraging students to, hey, this is your campus. And we, over the summer, really tried to make sure that they came back to a beautiful campus that looked nice and that. So I'm hoping and praying that this just becomes something that's not attractive.
Thank you, Jenny. I'd like to add a few comments. So back to number 7, as it states here, the only change to the policy and regulation was to the policy references. So this didn't change our comprehensive safety plan. This was a minor update that came in from CSBA. So I just wanted to take note of that. And I also want to credit our administration for their efforts in really thinking forward in terms of how we create more pride and ownership within our student body. It's challenging at any high school campus, but I think we're one of the most diverse and broadly represented high schools in the county. And students don't come in with a sense of Annalee pride. And we have to embed that in them. And that was evident within the leadership speeches from not only the students, but also the administration. So that's a big focus for our school staff and our leadership team to really help to foster school pride, accountability, and a sense of well-being And I think that also comes with some of the shifts that we're making with our educational program in terms of providing more opportunities for students to feel engaged and find, as Chuck says, find their place here. That's all I've got.
Yeah, and that's actually, thank you, Jenny, for your, vandal-proof efforts. But really what I was getting at more was what can we do to help mitigate the desire to vandalize? So thank you for addressing that, Chris. That's exactly
I don't
what I was
think that's a
asking.
facilities question. That's more of an education
right.
leadership.
Yes, and that was really where I was going with
Got it.
my comments. Thank you.
Okay. We need to vote. All those in favor? Aye. Great. Okay. Where are we? Reports. Student report. Alina, welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing as it is the first few weeks of school, I don't have a lot to report. We had the freshman orientation with the rally and a super lively and dedicated leadership class. I'm really happy to be a part of it. I'm really happy to have the classmates I do in it. I'm really excited for all we're going to do this year. Our social media and athletics, social media is already up and running with all the information about our school programs and events. So check that out on Instagram. However, like August said, we are currently without a college and career counselor. And the complete lack of this department is a great fear and concern, not only for the seniors within my leadership class, who are some of the most capable, kind students on this campus, but also thinking about the first gen students who won't or just may not even have any opportunities to create the portrait of a graduate, which is our whole thing here. And it's everything we want at this school. Specifically for the absence of Leah Woody, who, like August said, we specifically fought for her to keep the position. So her particular absence is a great disappointment. And also AC, we have AC. We love the AC. It's amazing. Thank you so much. So that's great. I actually had to wear my jacket in school today because I got a little cold, but I would prefer it. And speaking of AC, I know we need AC in the dance room for Miss J and our dance program. So I'm sorry to have to ask for more on that, but it's very important, especially for those dancers who are working so hard. And speaking of custodial staff, the campus looks great. It looks beautiful. They're such kind, hard workers, and we're really, really lucky to have them. And yeah, we're working on our back to school dance, welcome back dance. That's about all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. We are now on association reports. Lily?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Lily Smetshammer, president of the Teachers Association. My speech is on a Post-it note tonight because I'm just scrambling here at the start of the school year and I have some brain fog going on. So my notes are, you stole my thunder, girl, because air conditioning. Every time I walk into the main building, it's all people can talk about is, you feel it in my classroom as we're talking about something totally different. Are we 120 years old, this school? This is a humongous success. Well done, Jenny and your team, really. And thank you, everyone, for approving this plan. It makes an enormous difference in the quality of education that we can provide. And also to Jenny and Denise, thank you for the responsiveness in changing the temperature that we can adjust that air conditioning to during class. We need that flexibility. Once students with their hot, steamy breath are in our room, it turns into a jungle environment in there. And while it says 72 on the wall, it does not feel like it. So we need to be able to have that flexibility. And I appreciate you going the extra mile to make that happen before school started. I'm thrilled that portables are coming January, February. That's going to alleviate a lot of stress on the campus for squeezing all together. Thank you to the administrators, we seem to be making it work this year where we have more individual spaces for teachers, although some of them are in really tight spots. And so this will really help us. We are very thankful to have 4 administrators at the Annalee campus this year. The difference is enormous. There are just so many bases to cover at a school this large with this student body. This is going to free up our administrators to be able to actually meet with students and make some of those connections that leadership needs to make. Thank you to the maintenance and custodial staff for the incredible job they did over the summer. I showed up here 3 or 4 times during the summer to work, and they were always flying breakneck speed while people were on the roof and people were installing, copper tubing in the main building. And it was just chaos, and it managed to come together right before the school started. And so thank you for that major effort. Something the teachers would like to see, and I've asked for this before, so I'm bringing it in front of the board. I really strongly believe, and I've spoken to many teachers who agree with me, that we need one of our tech staff in the main building on our main campus. The student need for support with their one-to-one devices, and that's what we are now. We are a one-to-one school, and that means that we need a tech person readily available to put out fires, answer questions, get that kid back to class ASAP. Right now, what's happening is they go to the main office, the secretaries try and troubleshoot their Chromebooks while dealing with the line of students who need schedule changes and parents who are trying to enroll their kids, and it is just not working. If they can't solve the problem, our student has to go across the street to the student center, try and weave their way through to find where district office even is, because they've probably never been there before. Now imagine this is a freshman, a 14-year-old student, and then has to walk into the tech office filled with adults they've never met before and ask for support. We just need someone, maybe in the old attendance office, who is clearly marked above the door, technology support, who is there. They are on our campus all the time helping us deal with printers and teacher support anyway. If we had that available right there for students to be able to access at least one of our 3 people, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Appreciate it. Julie? Great.
Yeah, we are. Hi, Julie McClellan, librarian, on the negotiating team for a union. So for CSEA, I'm glad to see you guys. We're starting back again. Fun. Paul and I got to go to Paul Pomposa, who's our president, got to go to the state meeting of CSEA this summer, and that was super interesting. It was in San Jose. They normally have them in Vegas or Reno, but thank the Lord it wasn't there this year. It was really interesting. There were 1,700 people there. And so to just see like the organization behind what we're working with, it was really interesting. They had all kinds of workshops. We had a special greeting from Gavin Newsom and other people. It was really, really good. So it was nice to come away with a bigger picture of what's behind everything. Classified members are really looking forward to the school year. I know the custodial staff maintenance just worked their fannies off. All my windows are beautiful. All the cobwebs are off the buildings. It was really nice to just come in to clean everything, including the carpet, which got all the stains out, which was awesome. We wanted to thank you guys for approving the summer assistance program to happen. This is the first year where we got paid in July, which is the one month that most of us don't get a check, and to have that money to pay bills in July. So that was fabulous. People were like, oh my gosh, this makes a huge difference for me. So thank you. I hope we'll continue to do it. I know we signed up for the next year, but I hope we'll continue to do that. It made a huge difference for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Principal report. Who wants to go first?
Hi. So a week ago, we welcomed somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,470 students down on the football field with a trio of dances. We had our dance team, our cheerleading team, and then our traditional annual staff dance, choreographed by Miss Johnson. At that time, we were also able to introduce 18 fantastic new hires at Annalee. So I continue to be really impressed by the quality of candidates we're able to attract. In almost every case, our successful candidates were part of very competitive hiring processes, and feel like we have an especially strong new cohort that'll fit in well and serve students at Annalee for a long time. They dance pretty well also. As you know, we also have a newly strengthened admin team at Annalee. So I want to spend a little time bragging on our vice principals.
and telling you about the projects that they've each taken on to improve our campus. So I'm going to start with Christy Carlson. As you know, Christy comes to us from the Sonoma County Office of Education, where she was part of a team that's taken on sort of a new county-wide effort to improve campus safety. A lot of their work is based on some pioneering work that's going on in San Mateo County. She'll be working with our district team to redesign our safety processes and procedures. And already she's created a teacher buddy system, allow teachers in close proximity to provide immediate support and assistance in an emergency to their buddies class, build in some redundancy, improve communication and accountability, and ensure safety when subs are on the job. Christy's also worked with Jenny to create a new evacuation and accountability plan. We're going to do evacuations differently this year. They'll be safer. They'll be much more efficient, much more faster. And they'll be able to provide information about student whereabouts much more quickly. So I'm really impressed with that. We will have our first Secure the Campus drill on next Thursday. Kirsten Sanft, another new administrator, Annalie. She's an educator I've admired for a long time, not new to our district, so you know her already. She brings a wealth of experience and a fierce commitment to Team Student to our office. Kirsten's bringing a fresh approach to attendance this year. In addition to vigorously supporting our accountability processes, Kirsten's looking more deeply at root causes, supporting chronic attendance issues, helping staff develop targeted strategies to improve response, and really one of many, as Chris mentioned earlier, working on various ways to make our campus a more welcoming place to be. Vice Principal Gianna has taken on the glamorous bathroom project. New bathroom sign-out support for teachers, a schedule of hourly checks of all student bathrooms on campus, strengthens our ability to identify students causing problems with our bathroom facilities. A small minority for sure. Campus Supervisor Extraordinaire David Carey created an amazing phone-based spreadsheet thing that we can use to just click which bathroom we're checking, and it logs automatically where and when that happened, and actually, because we're logged into our Google accounts, who did the checking. So it's pretty great. We have already been able to use that to really narrow down investigation windows, and we'll be much more able to sort of get on top of what's going on and sort of facilitate a more efficient investigation process. In addition, we now have sort of a progressive process for supporting students who take too long or too frequent bathroom breaks. Oddly enough, in the TikTok age, you can't really talk about bathrooms without also mentioning cell phones. You wouldn't necessarily think those things went together, but they do. They want to take their cell phones to the bathroom. Cell phone policies haven't substantively changed, but our support for enforcement has. So, I got a very large number of steps in this week, escorting students back to class if they had neglected to exchange their cell phone for a bathroom pass, for example, which is sort of our policy. So we're enforcing that. We're directing students back to trade those things back in, and I think teachers are across the board really. They've been great about being on board. Our 9th grade teachers in particular are working together to sort of commit to a coherent experience across classes. This has really been led by veteran teacher Jeannie Curtis. She reports, it's been amazing, just amazing. The kids like it just as much as I do. What a shift in the culture. The kids are getting to know each other better, talking more, chatting, and being kids. Back when I let them go on their phones when they were done with their work, they just didn't chat with random people like they do now. So that's what we've been up to there in the first week at Annalie.
Now, are you going to let Chris tell about your new ride?
Oh, we're mentioning it. Yeah. You want to chime in on that, or? Right on. Okay.
Thank you.
Julie, while Greg's coming up, can I just add, Chuck mentioned new employees, and I wanted the board to know that all new employees have been invited to the September 11th board meeting. So they're RSVPing right now, those that are going to be able to make it. So you'll get to put names and faces together.
Okay, good evening. And we are off to a fast start to the school year. It seems that first week or so just comes right at you. And but it's always exciting, very energizing. And to echo a little bit of what Chuck said, I first want to highlight some new additions to our staff. Jamie Malone and Chris Langland came over to us to fill 2 retirees, so social studies and math. And also really excited about our new family engagement coordinator who started over at Laguna this week. And I'm going to talk about attendance a little bit, but it's going to be a huge piece to that process. So we started the year, and I've talked about these for a couple of years now, but we have our individual graduation plan meetings that we call our IGPs. We've met with roughly 25 families in the first 5 days, going over individual student graduation plans, post-secondary goals, outside of school interest, try to help facilitate their interest-based learning through our advisory process. It is really, I feel like, a backbone of what we do in terms of building relationships with our students and our families. I want to really thank West County Health. We have seen a huge increase in support. We now have a West County Health team member on our campus 5 days a week, with the services, varying based on the day and who's available. And really a huge effort in creating our wellness space out of our main office and trying to replicate the incredible wellness center over at Annalee and, make it our own and serve our students. So that's been a huge addition. One of the things that we looked at, also attendance related the past 2 years I've been here, is the start time of our school. And one of the things we did this year is we switched our meal service from brunch to a hot breakfast this year from 8:30 to 8:55, and we pushed first period back to 9 o'clock. What I've seen so far in the first 5 days has been it's a really, really incredible time for relationship building with our students. It provides really time in our day for students who are utilizing kind of a check-in, check-out system as part of the wellness center. And students have utilized that time as well to get some extra help for their classes as well. So, we're going to continue to monitor this and see what we can do with this half hour, but so far it's been really positive. So that's been great. Attendance tracking. I know one of the discussion items later is September and possibly Attendance Awareness Month. But one of my projects over the summer was, really looking at the root causes why our kids are not coming to school and trying to build a systematic approach to when we see a kid hasn't been to school for a day or two, what are the steps that we take and how are we going about it? And so we have some systems in place that we're going to give it the old college try and really track data this year and make sure that we are trying to correlate what we're doing and if it's seeing any results and where we can make those shifts. We are excited this year too. Our advisory period is, we learned a lot last year through that process. And one of the things we did this year is we came up with a yearly theme. And our yearly theme for the school year is Chart Your Waters. And the idea behind that is having students navigate their way through their individual career and academic plans and really working to build those. We've paired our grading periods with kind of mini themes in there. The first one is, charting your personal compass, which goes with self-awareness. And then as we get into the year, we'll be doing things as we explore college and career, like exploring your horizons and that sort of thing. Through this process, one of the things that, Chuck and I have talked a little bit about and done a little bit of work on, but really through the advisory period in that work and highlighted portrait of a graduate is looking at how we can maybe turn that into a rubric where it's something where our students are working with tangibly throughout the work that they're doing in our advisory class and other classes as well. Then lastly, on the horizon, we this year have submitted our intent to apply to be a model continuation school. Our application is due September 12th, and the process is very similar to the WASC process. In October, the applications are rated. They come and do site visits from October through December, and then we're notified in February of 2025. And I know, Laguna High School has a history of being a model continuation school, and we really, really want to get back to that. And so that is on our radar early on as one of our big projects, and that's my update.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Board reports. Debbie?
Thanks. Nothing. Okay. What did I have signed up to attend a CSB webinar on September 25th. They do, every time they put out a package of policy updates, they'll do a webinar, and you don't have to attend them live. I think they're like at 11 or 2 in the middle of the day, but they also record them. And I think it's a really great way to sort of hear the highlights about the policies that we have coming forward. So I would encourage any of you, we probably should be getting, I don't know, I don't get notices of these, but I just go on the CSBA website and I can find them, and it's really useful information. So I would recommend that to anybody who wants to learn more about the policies. And then I just want to clarify something. Back in July, a reporter reached out to me about the unification study that's going on, the Christy White study, and asked me my opinion on it. And I gave her I gave her my opinion, and I let her know that it was just my own personal opinion and that I wasn't representing the school board. And then there was some correspondence from the administration that and it went to all of you, which is why I want to bring this up at this meeting, that anytime a reporter reaches out, that our policy is to turn it over to the board president or the superintendent to respond. And I just wanted to let you all know that if you are very clear that you're giving your own personal opinion, then that's perfectly okay. We just can't speak on behalf of the district. And so because I knew that and there wasn't really super clarification, I didn't want any of you to feel like you can't also speak your mind if somebody asks you. Just make sure that you do advise them that it's your own personal opinion and you're not speaking on behalf of the district. And that's all I have.
I have no report.
I have no report at this time.
Just a couple really quick comments. It's just really heartwarming and impressive to hear what's going on. Just the feedback about maintenance changes that have happened over the summer and the feedback from our union folks, which are both really supportive and also has meaningful help comments and help for us because they're close to things. And what we're hearing from the principals, it's really, really amazing how we're making progress. And I have a kid in school here, so I get the kind of very non-scientific, intangible, and the vibe is good. And she has rock star teachers this year, and that says a lot to me. If you really think about who is teaching, a kid, it's really impressive. We have a lot of work to do. I know there were some letters that came out before the meeting today about kids still struggling with feeling safe here, and it's a big deal. And I don't want to gloss over that. Very tough issues to change people's mindset and culture that they come to school with. But we need to take that seriously. And I think we are, but that's important. So I don't want to say that like everything is perfect, but it's really headed in the right direction. I'm really grateful for what everyone's doing.
I just would like to give a shout out to the staff at Annalee because I was there the first day of school and the energy was fantastic. And the teachers did such a great job of welcoming all the students and being around and helping the kids find their classes and making them feel welcome and get over those first day nerves. So thank you. I thought that was great. I'd also like to give a little shout out to my buddy, Jennifer Roventini, who is completely redoing the closets, particularly at Laguna. It looks awesome. And she has now developed regular companies and stores that donate clothing to the closet, which is great because the Annalee one goes through clothes like you cannot believe. It's super popular. And they get all kinds of things besides clothes, jewelry, shoes, makeup, all kinds of stuff. Really cool place for kids to hang out. So I just wanted to say she really has taken that on, and both sites are coming along beautifully. And that's it.
Yeah, I kind of got a lot to report, but that's because it's the beginning of the year and I'm really proud of a lot of the great work that we're doing. So I'm thrilled to announce that our year started off on a very positive note, as you heard throughout the themes of the others that have spoken. So there is truly a really good vibe. I'd like to thank our amazing staff for the strong start to the year. We were obviously thrilled to welcome back our veterans and all of our new hires. Again, hearing the vibe on the campuses is great. I'm also really, really proud of our strong district leadership team, and we enjoyed a productive annual leadership retreat at Jenny Sebastopol Oasis. So thanks to Jenny for hosting again. And our cabinet team, we did a little bit differently this year. Our cabinet team created engaging departmental sessions to support specifically the work of our site admin. That was a theme throughout some of our cabinet meetings leading up to that our jobs are here to support their jobs in terms of the students, right? So it's just, it flows. And I really, I believe in that concept. We've heard it. Big thanks to Jenny Denise and our maintenance, grounds, and custodial team for their hard work, summer projects, and cleaning. The campuses look great. We've got a lot of amazing projects on the horizon. Look forward to the September board meeting so we can talk about some of our ideas and float those by the board for approval. For the second straight year, we're fully staffed in all teaching positions. That's a big deal. I really want to give a shout out to our consortium staff for weathering the shift in leadership and the move to the Forestville District campus. I think that the staff has rallied around that. Our cabinet team, specifically Jenny and Dan, have stepped into support. We weren't able to get a fencing project done. That was something that the new host district, Forestville, was having some trouble with. And Jenny pulled connections and got out there, and we got that thing rolling so that we could welcome back our students. So we're paying a lot more attention to our consortium program, and we really want to make sure that those teachers feel as though they're a part of our district. It's a really unique situation with them being placed on the host sites. And I made the commitment to be the vice chair for that, and then I'll take over as chair for the council. Matt Morgan committed to doing it for one more year, and he does a phenomenal job with that. I've also taken on one additional seat on a board. I now be representing the Sebastopol Rotary Education Foundation, and I'll also chair up the project committee. So that's going to be an awesome opportunity for me to partner with the neighboring districts and help to identify where the resources are needed. So that's my effort to be a little bit more involved in Rotary. It's hard to make those Friday lunch meetings, but it's really an honor to be a part of that. As we mentioned, we purchased a new golf cart for our Annalee site admin team. We have identified the need for a street legal golf cart on the first day of school before the rally to support the transport of our students, campus supervisors, and site admin. And I want to thank Andrew for moving quickly and securing the cart. And it was delivered on Friday, and it was really, really cool. They're now riding safely, legally on public streets and with some serious swag. So when you see them rolling around, throw it up.
And we love it. So cool.
We're actively searching for a new District 8 passenger minivan to support the Laguna program. Jenny's leveraged her connections with Hansel, and we had a test drive yesterday. So we're hoping to secure that van within the next few weeks. I hope you all had a chance to read our district welcome back message, as there's many things to be excited about as we kick off the new year. specifically that new mission statement. The mission of the West Sonoma County Union High School District is to provide equitable, high-quality instruction and opportunities that ensure all students have the tools they need to thrive. I'd like to affirm our ongoing commitment to some of these bullet points: diversity, equity, and inclusion, positive labor relations, reimagining our educational program to best serve all students, as our programs look a lot different than they had in the past. This includes piloting the cohorted model and the push-in programs at Annalee, the continued work towards building Laguna into a big picture learning model and a model continuation school, as Greg mentioned, rebranding West County iAcademy, which it hasn't really changed much in terms of how we serve full-time independent study students, but the growing need for more seats helped us to reimagine that and then relaunching it and rebranding it, because we know based on qualitative and quantitative data that there's a great need for that right now. The vision for new innovative educational program at Laguna campus, you'll continue to hear me talk about those plans. I'll speak to that a little bit more tomorrow night, and I'll be sure to keep the board and the community updated as to what we envision there. And facility upgrades at both campuses. AC was a big win, but we also have some good plans here in the future. Fostering a community school model at the Laguna campus. The community school model really is based on the pillars of community organizations that support not only the students, but the greater community as well. And I'm really proud of those partnerships. West County Health, Sonoma County Library, Parks and Rec, our newly in-process development with Maker Initiative. And then the big picture model really has a focus on student internships and the advisory program. That's also one of the pillars, the 4 pillars of the community school model. I'm excited to talk about our commitment to professional development. We negotiated an additional professional development day, which is ongoing, as we had done that in a one-off MOU the past couple of years. So we now have 3 full days of relevant professional learning for certificated staff. 2 of those days include the classified staff, September 16th, October 7th, January 27th. And we're excited to continue building on the themes that we implemented last year. Those themes are restorative culture, fostering inclusivity, Title IX compliance, standards-based grading, college and career readiness, and student engagement campuses wide. I'm excited to host the first of a number of informational sessions tomorrow evening at the Laguna High School Performing Arts Theater at 6 p.m., where I plan to share our district vision, as well as our current and future plans for the use of both district campuses. As you are all aware, there are significant revisions to current CSBA policies. That'll be an Ed Services item later in the meeting regarding Title IX compliance. These revisions are based on new federal regulations and legislation. Our leadership and governance team is committed to ensuring that we provide our staff with appropriate training to ensure that all students and staff feel safe within our school community and that our district adheres to these new policy revisions. I will be attending a Title IX training on Friday hosted by School and College Legal Services with Dan Blake, our new Executive Director of HR, who's also our compliance officer. Dan Blake will also be attending 2 3-hour sessions facilitated by our district legal advisors, F3 Law, one later this month and one during the month of September. We are currently planning our partnership with Positive Images, which is an LGBTQIA+ center of Sonoma County. We're working on a contract to have them assist with staff training around these new Title IX CSBA policy updates and to continue our efforts of creating the most inclusive and safe campus environment for our students. They have confirmed their availability to facilitate training during our October 7th PD Day. There may be some confusion for folks with regard to how they seek support if students or staff experience any form of discrimination. As we say, I encourage, if you hear or see something, say something. This includes speaking with a trusted adult. Perhaps it's a teacher, a counselor, an administrator, our DEI coordinator, or one of our trustees. I commend you if you're someone our students and families feel comfortable coming to with concerns. However, if you are one of those trusted adults, we encourage you to report that directly to our administration, Director of HR, who is our compliance officer, and myself. We cannot take action or appropriately investigate reports of discrimination if we do not know about them. We have clear processes in place for investigating reports of discrimination. Our website contains links to our DEI page and our Know Your Rights page. Please visit those pages to familiarize yourself with these resources that we have available to support our students and staff. Dan Blake will be messaging the community early next week after we attend our Title IX training on Friday to provide a further update of our plans to continue our dedication to fostering an inclusive school environment. I want to ensure that our students, staff, and parents are aware of the appropriate channels with regard to seeking help and our specific uniform complaint procedures. All of this information is available on our website. Big thanks to Gloria Mora and Jenny for really making some significant upgrades to the website during the 23-24 year. I'm looking forward to continuing the good work ahead in 24-25. We've made some great progress, but there is more work to be done. We're not there yet. And lastly, it's truly an honor to be your superintendent.
I just have one question before we move on. I'm the one that asked for number 2, the discipline report. Is our procedures when kids have issues come up, concerning discrimination issues, are those part of the discipline plan, and is it gone over each year with our staff?
Like the specific data that's included in the report?
No, I just mean a review of what to do in case, a student brings that to a teacher or aide or whoever's attention. Is that reviewed is the procedure of what to do reviewed?
I know that historically, both Chuck and Greg during their site leadership day have focused on discipline protocols. But I do know that we need to continue to make sure that that's really clear and provide specific support and specific direction to staff as to how they might deal and manage and support student conflicts or issues of discrimination. So it's an ongoing effort. You guys can elaborate on Julie's questions if you'd like, because I know that you guys built some really good site agendas for your teams.
We can wait till we get to that number. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. You'll also hear tonight a little bit about some of the data they've collected around alternatives to punitive discipline, which is an effort on creating that restorative culture.
I think my concern coming from the teacher point of view is, just so you know what I'm sort of looking for here, is we would develop discipline plans, and if they weren't reviewed regularly, either steps would get missed or new staff wouldn't understand the process. And I just think consistency of process is super important. And then everybody knows what to expect when something happens. And I definitely see where, when discrimination issues occur, it would be nice to include that in a process that everybody knows what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And there's a process we can always fall back on. So that's kind of what my point was. Ask for that. Sure, go ahead.
Brought to our attention through some letters that came in that somehow we need to address substitute teachers, which is it's a loophole where things could just fall through the cracks. So I know you can't do full training for substitutes, but substitute teachers should at least be aware this is our policy and our intention here, so that that's in the mix. Okay, thanks.
Great. That's why it's good to pay your substitute well, too, so that you get them over again when they're good, right? You don't have to retrain them all the time. Yeah, that's point. Okay. Consideration of approval of resolution number 2, August 2024-2025, regarding the month of September as Attendance Awareness Month. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you, Sean. Anything you want to say about that?
This is an annual resolution. Obviously, we believe in acknowledging Attendance Awareness Month, and I'm really excited about the plans both Chuck and his team, as well as Greg, have in terms of increasing attendance, decreasing chronic absenteeism. Chuck spoke to that. One of the reasons we're looking to secure a van for Greg is so that he can assist in transporting students who may have some difficulties, as well as supporting their new internship possibilities through the Big Picture Learning Model. I would like to note that there is a typo in the recommendation area. It says number 3. It truly is resolution number 2. So, okay.
I thought you found the same typo. My typo is in the final, now therefore be it resolved, the very last sentence, which is a nice thing to read. We hereby commit to improving school attendance and reducing chronic absenteeism to give all children an equitable opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive academically. And it should say emotionally and socially. It says emotional.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Alina. Thank you.
Good. Yes.
Bye.
Yeah, that'll work.
I need a visual. That's good. Okay. Report on annual school site discipline reports for 2023-2024. How do we want to do that?
Make a motion.
What's a discuss? Yeah,
Sorry, there you go. Okay, so you just launch it to me.
I'm launching it.
Cool. All right.
Consider it launched.
Okay. So this is an annual report. I'm pleased to announce that I think that we've really done a tremendous job of decreasing the number of punitive measures of discipline, as you'll see reflected in the data, including suspensions and expulsions from prior years. In addition, with the theme of creating a more restorative culture, both of our site administrators and our full admin team at Annalee have been looking at resources and finding alternatives to punitive measures of discipline. So at this time, I'm going to let whomever would like to go first jump up, present their data, and talk a little bit about their successes with regard to the report and school discipline.
Okay, so I'm breaking our cell phone policy here, but I have the report up. And one of the things I do want to say is I did include data for suspension diversions at the very end. However, what I can tell you is it only shows one. There was more. I'm not sure what the hiccup was with the Aries report, and I can talk a little bit about that, but there is more there. And I think from 2 years ago, our suspensions went down substantially, I think almost by about 50%, if I'm correct there. And I credit that a lot to the support services that we have. I talked earlier about West County Health, but the peer counseling, and using them as a resource for an alternative in education. And Julie, to your point, is really trying to make our policies and procedures and our discipline matrix, making that clear, making that consistent. We still have work to do. I mean, really a lot of work to do on this. But another thing that was we thought would be more effective for us. We used it a number of times, but we received a grant last year from a group called Panaptic, and it was a cannabis educational platform. And so between that and utilizing West County Health, we're really able to come up with some diversions, with some education, and then really, work with that student and that family for a plan moving forward. And so I think the way that I look at it is when there is an incident that warrants suspension, if there's a way where we can, and this is not unique to us, but build that relationship with that student, that family, and work together, we take that opportunity to do that. And so I think moving forward, we're looking for more ways to strengthen that. And one other thing I do want to add is Anita Sanduina, our DEI coordinator, would come to our campus every 2 weeks and would host groups on nonviolent communication. I think that played a huge role, really played a huge role, and our kids loved it, and they practiced it, and they would reference it. So we're looking forward to more of that this year.
Well done. Thank you. Chuck?
I think you have the report. So, during the 23-24 school year, we had 2 expulsions and 43 suspensions for a total of 114 student days out of school, which we take really seriously. Gambino called, exclusion a form of violence. I meditate on that quite a bit when I think about disposition for students. To be quite honest, I think I can speak for both John and myself. Last year, we're learning how to do some of this stuff. And one thing that I think is notable in our data is that of the 43 suspensions, 20 represent ninth graders, 16 10th, 5 11th, 2 12th. So as a whole, only students are learning as they get older. Well, that's a good sign. I like that a lot. So number of days represented by the suspensions similarly decreased for each grade level. There were fewer suspensions and days suspended than was the case in 22-23. I don't know that I can really make any generalizations about that. We were a new team, hard to control for variables from one year to another, but I would love to believe that the suspension diversion efforts had something to do with it. I definitely do have every confidence that as our systems mature, that suspension diversion and proactive sort of restorative culture work and work around belonging and inclusion will continue to improve the safety and culture of the campus. So I do want to say a few things about suspension diversion. It was a huge part of what we did when things came up on campus. In the 23-24 academic year, the Wellness Center substance use liaisons conducted 67 sessions serving 32 students as part of suspension diversion work. That looked a lot of different ways. Our administrative team met weekly with Sheila and often others from the wellness team to talk about the disposition options. They included things like numbers of a sequence of individual conversation with substance use liaisons, Narcan training, overdose education, fentanyl education, and harm reduction education work. New this year, which I'm actually really excited about, through a partnership with the County Office of Behavioral Health, we're going to take it up a notch. So we'll have actual medical appointment with substance use specialists. This is really helpful. I think our partnership with West County Health has been phenomenal and so valuable to us. And our substance use liaisons, they're super effective at folks who are sort of dallying with the substance, I think. When we have people who are already really in crisis, addicted to something, we really need the next step. I think the County Office of Behavioral Health is going to provide that for us this year. So I'm super excited about that. The other super important partner of our admin team this year, as Greg mentioned, is our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Coordinator, Anita Sanduina. She helped in a couple of different ways. I can't not talk about the proactive culture work, which I think is super important. So whenever we got any sniff of conflict related to some sort of harassment or discrimination related to gender, sexual identity, ethnicity, race, Anita was, really immediately involved in part of the solution for that. So try to head off any problems that we might cause. That's true about, complaints about incidents between students, but also staff. Anita is also very active in our ongoing transformational peer coaching work. I think that's an important part of how we're supporting students around some of these issues too. We have right now 9 coaches coaching 29 teachers. And really the work is, about uncovering unconscious bias, about addressing cultural competency. And it's super important and impactful work because it is self-directed. It's educators wanting to get better, and they're getting non-evaluative support for becoming better educators in service of their students. As part of I want to say one thing about how we are making clear to students and staff really about where to go for help around issues that may come up on campus related to discrimination and harassment. Gianna has just completed our schedule of admin presentations to every student on campus. So beginning, I believe it's week after next, we'll go into every classroom, and we have a sort of high-level presentation on student handbook. But as an important part of that presentation, we do address Title II, Title VI, and Title IX, and make clear, like, what do you do if you have a problem? Where do you go? How do you address it? Anita's also created videos. She was working with Louis Mora, who's our new family engagement coordinator. She's also over at Laguna, and a student. They were on the track in a golf cart the other day, filming a new video on how you get those services. That will go out in our morning announcements also week after next, just to make clear, like, where do you go when these things come up? So we're working on making sure that all of our students and all of our staff know what resources they have. Those who have taken advantage of it, I think it's been a huge help in terms of how we can proactively get ahead of problems and prevent them from becoming larger disciplinary issues on campus. That's the exciting work for me, I think. We would like to have no suspensions and no expulsions if we could. We don't want any of those issues to get to that point. So we're working on that.
Thank you, Chuck. Nicely done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Basically, I wanted to know two things, and you both covered it. So thank you. I wanted to know, because of when Jeannie and I went around and talked to various people that work in our district, we found that lots of staff members, like in the office, and didn't know necessarily the discipline process, why things were happening, or if anything was happening at all. So I think total buy-in by all of our staff is really important, and it just comes from knowing what the process is, right? So if you review the process, we're talking about doing, I think that's super helpful. And then also the students have been in the past very vocal about feeling like if they go to someone, they don't know if anything is being done. So I really appreciate you saying that you're going to review that and go to each class. I think it's important that the kids know that, yeah, when I have a problem and I say something, I know these steps are going to be followed, and I'm just not told, oh, it's okay, you'll be fine, So I appreciate that work. I think it'll make everybody feel safer at school and enjoy their time. So thank you.
Julie?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeannie.
I'd like to piggyback on what Julie just said about the issue of discipline and what's being done, etc. I don't know if you've covered that with your office staff, because they were the ones that questioned that they didn't know what really is done, and it might be really beneficial for you to have just a little meeting with them so that they are, if maybe you have, but so that they are clear on the processes as well. And because they also may be someone that's asked, or communicated with that there's a problem, so that they know what they're supposed to do. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, great. First reading of recommended revisions from CSBA June and July 2024 updates for policies and regulations. Thrown it to you.
Thank you. So as you are all aware, this is a first read. This was one of the heavier CSBA policy updates combined with June and July collectively. I spoke in great detail around the new federal regulations and legislation regarding Title IX. We do pay attention to Title II and VI as well, as Chuck indicated, but these policies were specific in that regard. One thing we tried to do to help the trustees navigate what options we've chosen is you'll see down in the list of the policies, so that you don't have to find that information. Some of these policies are optional. Some of these policies are mandated. Most of these policies were mandated with all the new legislation. So we've indicated which options you can reference your documents. That's all set ahead of time. I know it's cumbersome for both you. It's very cumbersome for us, but we're diligent. We really pay close attention to policy. We still have a lot to learn, and we're still interpreting a lot of the new laws and regulations, which is why I indicated in my report some of the additional training that Dan and I are going to engage with to really understand these new regulations. So I will leave it to the board for any questions. Again, this is a first read. Happy to answer any specific questions of any of the policies that were updated.
Questions?
I just want to say thank you for making that notation so that we aren't reading through stuff and then later we learn that we didn't really need to look at that right now.
And our process really is to, try to conform district policies with the CSBA recommendations. This district hasn't always contracted with CSBA. So I see these policy revisions come across my desk, and some of them hadn't been updated since 1993. And so it's really being aware of specific district practice. And we don't have a lot to change with these policies. My philosophy is really adopting them based on law and legislation, and when appropriate, adjusting some of those specific optional areas that reflect district practice. So how we do that, we look at the previously adopted policies. We look to see if that policy or that practice in that optional area is still in place, or is it not reflective of some of the changes we've made with new leadership and new direction. Any questions?
So particularly around the Title IX policies, the new rules came out in April and they went into effect August 1st. So we're abiding by them, and we're working to update our policies.
Correct.
But in, studying for tonight, couple of things that I just want to, the full ruling is 1,577 pages, and we had 600 pages of policy to look at. So obviously I'm not an expert, and I appreciate that you all are going to these workshops, and I'll look forward to you coming back with recommendations around implementation. And I would probably say one of the top changes with this Title IX, with the new Title IX rules, is that it's no longer under the Uniform Complaint Procedures. There's separate Title IX process, and it's a mandated reporting process. The individual does not have to file a complaint. If something is observed that falls under this category, it becomes the responsibility of the staff person who hears it to initiate the process. So that's a big change, and that's not something that's currently on our website because it's new. But that's something that I'll be interested in learning more about, how we're making sure that everybody, including substitute teachers, know about this. And then I would also like us to consider, and I had emailed this to Chris earlier, Sonoma Valley Unified School District developed a policy based on these new rulings, and they've already adopted it. It's called Policy and Regulation 5157 regarding gender identity and access. And they've already gone through the process and the vetting with CSBA and all of that. So I feel like that could be a good platform, or a good model policy that we could look at and consider adapting it to fit our schools.
Yeah, Debbie, I'm just on that note. I'm really curious to touch base with Positive Images, because I learned today that they partnered with Sonoma Valley in assisting in drafting that policy. So we're looking forward to really absorbing the information on Friday. Again, throughout the next month, Dan's going to absorb 9 hours of training. He'll be reporting back and helping me to interpret. And then we'll be working closely. We're going to be talking about this with our leadership team on Monday. So we're really curious and we're motivated to ensure that our practices evolve to align appropriately to obviously better the feeling of safety and inclusion on all of our campuses. So
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I would suppose that with these coming back to us at the September meeting, maybe as part of that, there can be a presentation to let us know what you've all learned about that.
I mean, I'll be happy to report and answer any specific questions. I'll work with my team to talk about the feasibility of putting a presentation together and maybe sharing some of the things that we've learned and how it will change our approach to responding to these issues and aligning with the federal regulations and the new legislation. I think that can definitely be a part of that.
I'm sure too, getting input from different parts of our school community would obviously help guide the policies in the future. It's not something you could probably just go to a workshop and come back with a new policy that necessarily works for our school.
Right. And I think, Debbie's suggestion, if we're going to look at what Sonoma Valley's done, really we're required to adopt the new CSBA policies and align with federal law.
Right.
So I'm curious to learn how that has implemented or integrated some of the other language in the existing policies, and really how is that advantageous for the district? How is it different from the policies that CSBA? I'm not sure. Are they a CSBA school? Got a lot of questions there. And I think what we hope to do is look at how we can implement systems and processes that align with these policies and do that right away. And in the meantime, continue to address the concerns. As you've heard, we're all very diligent and aware of what we want to create here and the work that still needs to be done.
I'm very impressed with everything that we've done so far.
Can I make a recommendation that
Please.
that maybe those particular ones don't come back in September? Maybe they come back in October to give you guys more time to put something together. And because Dan, one of these is one of his trainings is it right near or after our meeting?
Well, I'm hearing you there, but again, the policies, even though they have to go through a first and second read, the law went into effect. So our processes and systems need to be implemented ASAP. I'm fine with bringing it back to you and then bringing you updates, because as we do this work, this really meaningful work, it's gonna encompass an evolution and changes and refinements. And
that was kind of my point.
Right.
I agree that.
Yeah, it's an ongoing effort. And I want to also engage the work of our DEI committee,
Right.
the work of our DEI coordinator. And this is a collective effort. And I acknowledge Dan as a compliance officer. It doesn't start or end there. It starts with every one of us, including all the people I acknowledged. If you're one of the trusted adults or people that students feel comfortable with, that's why we need to know. And then those folks need to know what we expect of our staff to align with these laws. So I'm committed to it. It's not something we take lightly, and it's heavy right now. And it's work that we've shown a commitment to in the past 2 years. And I'm really excited about finalizing that DEI framework. And that's what we're hoping to do, tomorrow night as a committee, bringing that back to share with the board, and then continuing that work as a committee. But it's a collective effort, district-wide, community-wide. So any other questions? There's other policies not pertaining to Title IX. So if there's any other specific questions, otherwise I'll let you guys move the agenda along.
One thing that I wanted to flag also is that it's advised, or we must actually keep both sets of policies, because any incidents that we learn about that took place before August 1st, the previous policies would, right, and anything that happens from August 1st moving forward.
There's some specific finite details though, and I'm hoping they go over that on Friday.
Yes.
Because when I went and examined these policies that were replacing existing policies, the CSBA is recommending that we adopt the policy, and those weren't optional. So that language is going to fold in. to these new policies as written and recommended by CSBA. I can't imagine how some districts don't contract with CSBA and write their own policies, because we do have a really great guiding light in what they present for us. But again, we're learning and we're committed to ensuring that we implement these policies in the way that they're recommended and written to align with federal regulations and law.
And so just to reflect on some of the public comment that we received, a lot of the dialogue that we've had here tonight is about, if a student comes to a trusted adult with a concern, that then the trusted adult brings it along to the Title IX coordinator.
Or encourages the student to go through the proper channels. Right?
Exactly. But moving forward with this policy, with this law that's gone into effect, and the mandated reporter piece,
right,
if it's overheard, a blind eye cannot be turned. If it's heard, if it's witnessed.
I understand, Debbie.
And so that's a real important, I think, training.
But if
issue
we as adults, as a part of protecting and serving this district, if we're not including or encouraging families and community members to include the administration who are responsible for the safety of all of our students, we're not educating our community, and we're not supporting
Absolutely.
in providing the support that these kids need. So that's my point,
Right.
is that it's a collective effort. Make sure we're aware, because you're not the ones that are responsible for the safety of the students in terms of the acting administration and what we can do to move that forward. So you make a good point. I mean, that's where we need to educate. That's where we're planning to dedicate time at all of our professional development days to make sure that our staff understand and have the tools to make sure that, we're doing the right thing.
Right. Because that's a big shift from what was expected previously.
I mean, I see it similar in the realm of the CPS report, right? It is.
It's similar to
very
that.
similar.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
If Julie, can I just add really quickly one quick piece on that? Each year, as I'm sure you're aware, our staff have to do the mandated trainings that they have to take, not just mandated report, but a number of trainings. And we contract with a third party, Public School Works is who we're currently using. One of the trainings that all staff are required to do this year is specifically around the new legislation of Title IX. So that's another place where staff is going to be made aware of these shifts or these changes.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Discussion and possible action of location of the remainder of the 2024 board meeting.
So yeah, we have a board adopted board meeting calendar, last year. For some background knowledge, we knew we needed to bring our board meetings to the different parts of our greater West County, right? Large geographical draw. So we were committed to taking some board meetings out to the Laguna campus. I've heard it loud and clear from Jenny and her team that moving them back and forth is difficult at times. So I asked her what would be ideal to support, kind of that labor-intensive process. And while we committed to a number of meetings here and a few meetings there, perhaps we consider the semester and a semester so that it can stay set up. That's something that you all have to discuss, and it was requested that we agendize this. And so the floor is yours to give me some direction in terms of the possibility of revising the calendar. The calendar is set. It's set for the next 4 meetings: September, October, November, December. We do it on a calendar year. In December, we'll vote on a new calendar year. So what do you want to do for the next 4 months in terms of rotating and ensuring that we have presence on the Laguna campus?
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Since we were here in June and July and now August at in the Anley Library, can I make a recommendation that we spend September and October in the Forestville Library, and that we come back here for November and December, and then in December when we set our calendar, then we can reevaluate that.
Trustees, this is your
That makes it a little easier for Jenny.
This is your meeting.
Jenny, would you like all of them together? That was the point, right? I want to do what's fiscally responsible too in this area.
This definitely is a request of myself and my department, and I so appreciate that we're having this conversation. The preference of our department would be to have it in the same place for 6 months and then the same place. So when we're here at Annalee, we set it up tonight. I was in here from 3 to 5:15 tonight, setting it up. That's me and one other person. And that's a lot of time that I take out. And so when it is at the other campus at Laguna, it's nice to just be able to walk in, plug in, and we had some tech difficulties tonight. It doesn't always happen, but it's been a minute. So that was a little bit longer than normal. So I was looking for us to have it kind of stationary. And I know we only have board meetings through the end of the calendar year. And so when I approached Chris about it, I said, well, it'd be really great to do the first semester at Annalee and the second semester at Laguna, because there's some issues with different events that are going on. And plus, when we come in here, we're coming in during the last period of the day and tutorial. And so we're interrupting students while we set all of this stuff up. So that's my request. We'll do obviously whatever the board votes on tonight. And I just appreciate the consideration for our limited IT staff. And I'm a perfectionist, so I come in here and tweak everything after they finish.
Greg, can I ask how it affects your staff when board meetings are there? Does it at all, or?
I can tell you our staff really likes it when it's at our site. Not too much. I mean, we have some events we hold in the library, but for the most part, if we're down there and it's set up, we can move around it, or I'll communicate with Jenny and we make it work.
Well, I would just want to acknowledge, I'd be remiss that we will have newly seated board members at that time, and they'll be tasked with making that decision.
Exactly.
So just know that, we can't really confirm that there may be some new trustees seated. So just a note.
The other thing is that May is always a problem here because of AP testing, and we cannot be here in May. It has to be out at the other facility. Yes, it would be. Yes, we would be.
I am too.
From a procedural standpoint, and Chris acknowledged this in his introduction of the item, in May, we actually codified this calendar as part of board policy. And as it's board policy, we wouldn't be able to just change it tonight because it's board policy. It has to come for a first read and a second read. And the reason for that, and the reason that was something that CSBA sent to us to add to our board bylaws, is in order for the public to have a calendar and expect when meetings are. So I think that we really couldn't make an action on this tonight. We could give direction to come back with a first read for a change in September, and then we could vote on it in October. But that really, that just leaves us, 2 more months. So I would lean towards, just for overall transparency. At the beginning, we had a lot of people who would show up at the wrong place for the meeting. This is already published. It's been out there. People may have printed it, put it on their bulletin board, put it in their calendars. And so I would hesitate, with only a few months left in this calendar year, to make any changes, but to definitely look forward at doing that at the December organizational meeting.
Yeah, and that is correct. We would need to do a first and second read. So currently,
The second read?
I mean, that's definitely something that the board could consider, but if it's written in policy, right now with first and second read, you can waive the second read and put it on consent. So I'd have to adopt a new policy that would waive the second read completely, which we floated by the board when this new board was seated, and it was decided that we would do a first read and then with the opportunity to waive the second read, but it would then go on consent. So it really doesn't save you much time. So we're looking at September 11th at Forestville, October 9th at Annalee, November 13th at Forestville. So if you gave me direction tonight, I mean, Debbie's not wrong. We would have to adhere to the next 2 months that are currently approved. And then you'd have the ability to change the location of the 13th, which could then put us back to back at Annalee. and then the December 11th and 18th meetings, and they're scheduled at Annalee as well. So you can make an adjustment for November, and then the new board would have to make some decisions, right? So it's really up to you guys. I understand. I think that keeping it set up at Laguna right now is feasible with the program that we have currently. But again, our plans are to launch a new program that's going to mainly use that location. So leaving it set up ongoing come 25, 26 is not going to be a reality. So we're really talking about the spring semester. But I understand the difficulties and the burden it puts on our IT staff and Jenny. So I wanted to make sure that we had a discussion.
Mhm. I would also like to hear from the public about their opinions about because that's the reason for this, to have these meetings in public so that people can participate. And maybe one of the things that we would want to incorporate in a conversation about meeting location is also considering allowing public comment by Zoom, because our district is very large. So there are people in Fort Ross that, they would have to really be committed to come in person to this meeting. So
I wouldn't recommend that. I think our meetings go pretty long at times, and we're not obligated to do that. And we do have an avenue for people to submit public comments, and they're diligent about doing so. And we have our process to ensure that those public comments are included and attached to the agenda. We give people till 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. The board gets those before the board meeting. But I do understand, some of the travel burdens that it takes place. But I also have to be mindful of my staff's time, the people that come to these board meetings, our teachers that have to be up and ready to go in their classrooms. And we've had some pretty late board meetings, and it's exhausting.
I agree. When we had public comment during Zoom meetings, it was laborious.
So
atrocious. Thank you.
That's. I think this is taking a turn and not really on topic for this discussion. I'm kind of hearing that I've got some direction, but please clarify that, because we really don't have many options. Option one is you tell me to bring you a new calendar in September based on what you'd like to see. And then obviously that wouldn't go into effect until November 13th. So you'd really have an opportunity to change that one.
I would just say, let's just leave it like it is, and let's reevaluate it in December when we have the opportunity with when we're supposed to do that.
Okay.
That's my thought.
I'm fine with that.
Lori,
Jenny.
I am also in favor of not changing the current calendar, but you're saying that looking to the future, like 6 months and 6 months may not be feasible.
Right.
And so also looking to the future, maybe like since we have 11 months out of the year that we have board meetings, maybe more like each quarter might work. I know it's 2 more than you want to do, but it still is, it splits it up, and it also leaves it in place longer than this sort of piecemeal thing that we've done.
And again, leaving it in place is only going to be feasible through the spring semester. Come 25, 26, there's going to be a whole lot more happening in that library, and I'm not going to want that set up.
Yeah.
So that Greg and our programs can really use that space. It's a beautiful space. We intend to use those 3 classrooms for the development of our new program. And Greg's using them right now for the current Laguna program. And I know that that's going to be a place that's used by Jane Mays to support all of the students that we plan to serve through West County Eye Academy, and that attendance is growing. So soon enough, she's going to have 90 students on her caseload. Yeah. Okay. I've got my direction. Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, cell phone policy discussion. Basically, Lilith and I sort of have been talking about this because of things that we have read in the newspaper and obvious concerns with student emotional development and how cell phones can affect that. And we want to improve the educational experience and social emotional development of our students as much as possible. But after reading all the different things all the different schools were doing, we pretty much agreed this would have to be
something that the teachers, particularly because they have to enforce it, need to participate in the development of, as well as the students who have to buy in. So, and Lewis, feel free to jump in. It is my opinion that each site should develop a cell phone policy that fits its needs and can be, dealt with effectively by the classroom teacher, and the buy-in is with the students as well. Go ahead, Jeannie.
It sounded to me like, especially Anley, because Chuck talked about it, that they are already have been working on that. And when I saw this, I thought it was a good idea also. But then when Chuck talked about it, I was like, well, it sounds to me like they are working on a plan. So maybe it needs to get put into writing so that it's very clear and so that everybody knows the thought process involved.
My second
But I'm
point was to make a policy that could possibly be brought in front of the board.
And I do want to acknowledge, and I talked to both of the principals about what to expect with this discussion. I know that Chuck's been working on it, but Greg has an established policy that's been agreed upon with his staff. They're very, very different programs. Greg mentioned that he was breaking his own cell phone policy while providing you his report, if you caught that snippet. So he has an established policy that he feels good about. Would you like to speak to that?
I'll preface this. We feel good about it 5 days in. So at the end of last year, we met as a staff and talked about what we wanted to do. And one of the ideas we got from actually our WASC visiting chair was the Faraday pouches. So we purchased, 100 Faraday pouches, and not the locking kind, just the Velcro kind. And one of the things that I was pretty adamant about is I never want to touch a student's cell phone. I always want them to be with them, which was one of the reasons I wasn't a big fan of the calculator pouches. So what we did is when the students come in, we either hand them a Faraday pouch or it's on their desk and they put it in the pouch. We met as an all-school assembly on Thursday. We talked about the why. And I linked a couple of research articles about increased anxiety, depression, lack of focus, shared the letter from Governor Newsom, and talked about the why. And then I also, I put my phone in a pouch during the day as well, try to model that. And it's not, I was reading the newspaper articles at some of the other schools around, and I didn't want to do zero tolerance. I think the goal here is responsible use it as a tool. If I felt like if I was saying zero tolerance, I would be very hypocritical, because I think we all use our phones throughout the workday as a tool. So having conversations about that and the why, I think it's been effective so far. I've got, some negative comments. Can't listen to my music. I can't do these things. But some of the positive comments is, one student told me, I actually really like it. My FOMO is pretty much gone. Another student, and I think this is a big piece of it too, said, I haven't really noticed because I've been so busy in class. And I think we also at times we have said, hey, pull out your cell phone. We're filling out a survey. This is a time where you can use it, So we're working with that. We're learning as we go. But I think 5 days in, I think it's been successful.
So is it put away for the entire day? Like, can they bring it out at lunch or what?
Yeah, passing periods and lunch, they can have their phone. Yeah, they take it with them when they leave. Yep. In the classroom.
Is there any media literacy curriculum embedded with that?
We have it planned in our advisory for a little bit later in the year. Yeah.
Good.
I just have a quick question. Is that supposed to be like a current thing happening? Or like, is it coming in the future? Because I haven't.
we can't hear you speak up.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry. That hasn't been implemented in any of my classes yet. So I'm just wondering if that's like current. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Was there any talk about them going away for the entire day? Just because I know Lewis and I have really been reading like everything on it. And, it creates a different environment at lunch too.
I will say what we've seen though is because what I've noticed as, walking around, this is just me correlating, but I think we're seeing more student group interaction in the classroom. I've seen way less cell phones out at lunch.
Oh, great.
Not to say it's zero. It's not zero, but
right.
Truthfully, I mean, the all day wasn't something I felt really interested in. Kind of, because that's I felt like that's all we would be doing.
Well, that's why we knew that it had to be left up to the people actually doing it.
Mm.
You're right. It is a lot more monitoring. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
And a question for Julie and Lewis. So in your research, interestingly, at the beginning of this summer, we received an email from a teacher about this concept. And at the time, I was in the process of reading The Anxious Generation. Has anybody here read that book? It's yeah. It's a really long wait for it at the library. So if you want it anytime soon. And so I was really interested to see this as a topic for us to discuss. It's certainly not something that we can make a quick knee-jerk decision about. And that the bell to bell is an intriguing concept when you put it in the context of what this author in The Anxious Generation is talking about. And I'm sure that these Faraday bags are really helpful for teachers. So there's different, levels of what would happen and how to implement it. And then there's also, I think, a couple of different pieces of legislation making their way through that might end up, making it something that all California schools do. Governor Newsom is very keen on the concept. He's got young kids and he's paying attention to these things. And it's a little bit different than it's been for a while. It's like the kids of 4 or 5. I think the pandemic really put kids into their phones because that was where the social world was. And so I think it's a big, big subject. And I think if we have a couple of things, we could let the sites do their thing and then come back and report to us. And then maybe if legislation comes later, look at it then, or maybe form some kind of working group with students, with teachers, with staff, admin, and start a dialogue about what would this look like? What are the concerns about it? Are there safety concerns? There have been times where there have been lockdowns and, it wasn't necessarily like the PA system didn't work and people really needed their cell phones to be able to tell each other about that. I think we've ameliorated that to some extent, but there's a lot of different what ifs around that. And I think that it could be a really good, important conversation, but it is a heavy list that would take, people signing up to be a part of a working group to really
I personally, after researching it and watching Upteen YouTube videos on how to beat various devices that kids have made and come up with, that I feel comfortable leaving it up to the sites because those are the people that have to implement them. And you guys know what you need more than anybody else.
I mean, I'd love to give Chuck a chance to speak if he'd like to. If he'd
absolutely
think he'd like to update us. I know he's been working on this since last year.
Well, a couple things. One is we do have a cell phone policy at Annalee.
You have.
So it goes like this. Cell phones are allowed on campus, but must be turned off and put away during class time. No phone should be visible, including TAs, unless otherwise directed by the teacher. If a student violates this policy, there's following consequences, and we have sort of progressive policy, which sort of culminates in parent having to come get it. So that policy, I don't think it's dissimilar from what y'all are doing. What you've added, though, that I think is super important is support for teachers and others who have to implement this policy. So I think that's where we really can use the help of some kind of working group or some thinking. How do we help the teachers do that work? As I mentioned before, Junie Curtis and others have sort of taken led the charge on this, figuring some things out. We have cubbies that some teachers are using and different strategies. But I do think the big thing is going to be coherence across the campus. So that we're all doing the same thing. And like you say, that's got to be agreed upon by the folks doing that work. So I really think that's super important. That's going to be slow, hard work, but valuable. The Anxious Generation book is super compelling to me, actually. The incidence of mental health issues that seem clearly to be related to cell phone and social media use is terrifying, particularly among our young women, and suicide ideation and other things associated with that we cannot ignore. So I do think we have an obligation, a moral imperative to take that seriously and figure something out. But we as a culture are still trying to figure out our phone use. So that's an area where we're going to need to work together and give each other a little grace and figure something out.
Any other comments, Louis?
It's really interesting, Greg, to hear what you're doing. There's something compelling about the Faraday bag in that it's a consistent thing that's the same in each classroom, and it could be the same in each grade. But I guess I'm speaking for the board, which, speaking for myself, I think as a trustee, I would love to see some kind of policy put in place that is more rigorous like Greg's and a little bit more tuned up than what we're doing here at Annalee. It's bad. I mean, it's really addictive. It's heroin. It's bad. But it has to come from the people that need to implement it. And so it'd be great if we could set some really reasonable time frame to hear back from whatever ad hoc group of staff and students too should really be part of it, and come back to the board in a month or 2 or 3 or what's reasonable and say, this is what we really want to do and what you need. If we need to find money to buy a bunch of Faraday bags, then let us know what you need so we can support you in doing it in a way that is reasonable.
Louis, can you be specific when you say it's bad? What are you hearing from your daughter or whoever, her friends?
Okay, so 2 girls are hanging out together, and they're lying on the bed together, and they're both on their phones, maybe interacting with each other. Did you see this? Did you see that? But they're not like putting them down and looking each other in the eye and talking.
So you're concerned that's happening at school?
Yeah, it's just the constant having to know what's inside that little box.
Mm-hmm.
And then since they released the first iPhone when I was a rookie teacher, we used to wander over.
It's TikTok.
Let's go to line.
But this policy that Chuck read, so I talked to my kids about what we're going to be talking about tonight, and my 2020 graduate said there is a policy, and it was that. My 2023 graduate, I have no idea. They're not, because I think maybe teachers I think the volume just might be more because so many people went home. They were on lockdown. And I think, I would be curious to know from teachers, is it harder now since we came back from lockdowns and pandemic to do that? Because kids have shifted, humans have shifted. And so that's what we're talking about. It's not because the policy has always been there. So how can we support
The commitment? Yeah. I've got a friend in one of our neighboring districts that's a teacher who's implemented the no cell phone policy. He's terrified because he's committed, but it just takes one teacher that's not, and that collective agreement and that buy-in and the administration working together with those teachers. As soon as one person isn't committed, as Paige just indicated, it's out the door.
So I just have something I wanted to share because, and normally I read the CSBA notes we get every single day, by the way, and I read them every day. And I didn't file this one because I knew we were talking about cell phones tonight. And this is from a high school in Fresno that they said that they implemented a no cell phone policy 2 years ago. And they've had every issue imaginable with this policy. And they said, instead of putting devices in magnetically locked pouches like the kids are supposed to, they will sometimes stick other things in them instead. An old telephone, a calculator, a glue bottle, or just a phone case. Or they will attack the pouch and pull out the stitches, or they'll cut the bottom, or they'll deface it so that it looks like it's really closed when it's open. Most students comply, but there are those that do create chaos. And then he went on further to say that they have these challenges and they know that then those are the students that are truly addicted to these devices that then need some sort of assistance and help. Another school in the same thing yesterday, or today's news, I'm not sure if it was today's or yesterday's, they said that they also have banned cell phones, but they don't use pouches. They just have a policy that cell phones go in the backpack. And when I see a cell phone out, it becomes the teacher's cell phone during the class time. Simple as that. And when the student says, you can't have my cell phone, they don't send the kid to the office because they know the kid's not going to go to the office. They send for one of the campus supervisors to come and escort the child to the office. So I think there's all kinds of solutions and other things that can happen. But I thought it was really interesting that almost daily we're seeing stuff in the CSBA news about this. And I also do understand that there are issues with regards to parents being very concerned and or students being very concerned that they don't have access to their parents or their parents to their student. I also know that there are students that have IEPs that allow them to have their cell phone available to listen to music or whatever during specific times or whatever. I know my son, there was not cell phones when he was in school, but he was allowed to have music. And if that were today, he would be using a cell phone to be able to have music to keep him focused. So I think we have to be very cautious those sorts of things and aware. But I like the idea of a user group or a focus group, including teachers, students, parents, and administrators, so that we can get to the bottom of how we can make this work best for everybody. But I totally agree. Something has to be done because I believe that what you said, Chuck, about girls is paramount. I think it's sad and it's scary, and we need to help them. I don't know that they know they need to be helped, but we have to do what we can to help. That's our job. Thank you. Anybody?
I was just going to suggest that, I talked to the team and I think Greg's got something well established that was agreed upon. We let Chuck do some work, and when he's ready, he'll let me know and we'll agendize an update in the next few months. Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Human resources, consideration of approval of assignments outside of credential area. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Ian.
Great. It's a fairly routine annual item. Ed Code does allow teachers to teach outside of their credential area under certain criteria. On this item, you'll see the 7 criteria that are looked at whenever this is the case. This year, we have 7 such teachers teaching outside their credential area. Each of them has signed the waiver acknowledging that they're open to doing so. In our case, of the 25 sections that in which teachers are teaching out of their credential, all but one are elective offerings. Most of those, the majority of those, actually academic support courses. So you can see the list of teachers and the courses in question. Like I said, fairly routine, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Great. Consideration of approval for Emily Rico Garcia, Spanish teacher, to teach under a provisional internship permit. Can I have a motion? On the second.
Okay. As Chris mentioned during his report, we are very excited that we have all of our certificated teaching positions filled as we start this school year. In one of those instances, we have a teacher working under a provisional internship permit. This is when you've conducted a thorough search and are not able to find a fully credentialed teacher for a particular subject. In this instance, we had done a complete and thorough search. In fact, we had made an offer that was initially accepted, and then at the 11th hour, that candidate backed out. So we were in a bit of a bind. Fortunately, we found a very strong candidate who happens to be a former Annalise student. One of the things required to receive the provisional intern permit is a certain amount of coursework and units in the subject area. She exceeded that amount, and so just asking for your approval for this one teacher to teach under what we call the PIP.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Great. Facilities, maintenance, and technology. Measure A bond and budget project updates. Ms. Jenny?
Thank you. We've had a busy summer. We haven't been around campus. It's kind of a magical little thing that happens in our world. You guys all graduate and leave campus, and then I had teachers tell me the next day, I didn't realize they were going to really start the next day. I mean, we had everything under construction, well underway, tearing off roofs, you name it, we were doing it. And we spent the entire summer completing close to $10 million worth of construction improvement projects to the Annalee campus. And I'm really kind of waiting for Alina to come back because I want to address one of the things that she said in her comments earlier today. But I also wanted to remind you guys, we have a bond website page right up here. It shows all of our active projects, completed projects. You'll start to see some projects move from one side to the other as these get into their final completion. Also, just want to remind everybody, we have very detailed information. Did that show up there? Let me make that real small. Very detailed information on each project, almost the step-by-step process we take, maybe month by month, of how a project comes to a concept all the way through construction and the status of all those projects. So you're going to see projects updates here fall off and go into the completed projects area. I'm not going to be updating the bond project the bond budget updates yet. As projects come to close and we finalize those out, I don't really have the final dollar figures. While we didn't have as much change orders over the summer as we anticipated, because when you're tearing off roofs and dealing with unforeseen conditions, you always throw a little bit of a dry rot allowance. We didn't really have any issues. Although, if everybody remembers the East Wing fire many, many years ago, there's a cricket that they put in the roof, and it still had fire damage. So that was able to be removed, and it was replaced. But it was just interesting. Like, oh, look. So we're still in the process of updating the budgets. We're also in the process of updating our next round of projects that go out to bid. While this construction season has ended, we're ramping up for the next one. We're going to be very busy over the next 2 years as we kick off the portables to the CTE project to whatever else the board prioritizes next month. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on the status of each of the projects. So the main building HVAC project, we filed the notice of completion. The architect, I'm going to call it the OAC, that's the owner, architect, and contractor. The OAC has done our punch lists and we're finalizing those as we speak. The small gym, DSA, just want to give this for the good of the order. DSA has had a new change in management and a new change in staff. And those staff are very young, still very green, and they're still figuring out their roles in each of their positions. So we're struggling sometimes to get through back check and comments to get projects approved. So we're still not out of DSA for the small gym. Mind you, the small gym, the main building, the East Wing, the Industrial Arts Building, they all went into DSA at the same time, and we're still not out with the small or the main gym. So we're anticipating approval anytime. These are going to be viable projects, small gym for next summer. So that is going to be HVAC roofing. It's also going to be a mini refresh of the building. So we're going to replace all the siding. It's going to go from wood to metal. Other things that we're going to do is the interior corridor floor. We're going to resurface the gym floor. We're going to redo the interior of the hallway as well as the small gym, and we're going to replace all the doors and locks while we're there. The next project that we did this summer was the cafeteria HVAC and roofing project. That project is substantially complete. The upper deck roofing, the material has not arrived. It's weathered in. So we're just waiting for that to arrive, hopefully by the end of the month. Anticipating filing the notice of completion in mid-September. The woodshop building, that project was one of the most difficult projects, only because the glazers were on strike for the majority of summer, and that project had a large window component to it. So the solar had to be removed. We re-roofed the building. We put the solar back, and we basically weatherproofed it in. The windows just started to arrive at the beginning of this week, and they were fabricating them in the fenced-in area of the wood shop. And at 5 a.m, between 5 and 8 a.m, and then after school, they've been installing them. So that project is substantially complete, hoping to be done by middle of September. The main gym, HVAC and roofing, and this is where I wanted to address your comment that you made about the dance room. So this project's been in DSA. DSA is the Division of State Architect. They're our approving body. And we do plan to put air conditioning in the dance room. It just hasn't been approved by the state, and we can't do that work before that can happen.
That's fantastic. Do you know how long the approval will take?
It won't happen until next summer because it'll coincide with the roofing and HVAC, because we'll pull the roof off. We'll pull all the HVAC units off. We'll put them back on. And that's part of that project. So I'm sorry you're going to have to deal with another another warm one, but we can get some portable AC units. We have a lot of them. Anyone need one?
Good.
$40.
Put a lot in there. That would be good.
So we don't want to put too many in there. They'll pop the breakers. But we can put 1 or 2 in there for sure. But
Thank you so much.
I definitely want to address, it's always been part of the plan to put that in there. Our hope was that the small gym and the main gym would have been out of DSA at the same time, and we would have done all 5 of these buildings at once. But sometimes we can't help with that.
As a volleyball player too. Thank you.
The East Wing roofing project, the notice of completion has been filed. That project is substantially complete. The OAC team has done the punch walk, and we're finalizing those pieces right now. The door and security locks, that project is kind of in a holding pattern. We have been starting to upgrade locks and doors at each of the projects that we're doing and incorporating it into their scope of work. A door and lock project is a huge undertaking. And as we find and discover how many doors, like today we just walked the small gym and we have 29 doors in the small gym. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't even know. We have, and I'm exaggerating. I don't think it was 29. I think it was like 20. But it felt like 29 because I was counting all of them. So that's what we're trying to do. We've the board adopted standards, and so we're adhering to those standards, and then we're changing out locks as they fail. The new CTE project we have submitted to DSA. We've fully been part of the intake process. Now we're just in what they call bin time. So we're hoping to get back check comments by the middle of September so that we can start working on responding to those. We believe that we'll start the bidding process for that project in the January month, and that we would be looking to have the board consider awarding that project sometime in April. However, we are currently meeting with the contractor. The OAC team is meeting to strategize the construction schedule and see how we can get ahead of summer. And you do not need DSA approval to demolish buildings. So there could be a first award of that scope of work. So it all is contingent upon our portables, which is the next project. Temporary housing, we are in DSA. We believe we'll be in back check later this month. And we anticipate that we'll be out of DSA sometime in November, which we would want to get ahead of the bidding schedule and start bidding that sometime in October and awarding it no later than December and landing those as quickly as humanly possible. And then working with the site administration on the 2 classrooms, relocating as soon as humanly possible. So I'll be reaching out about that because there's a lot to clean in that maker space, or just leave there and we'll just mush it. Mush it. So, Forestville Building F, HVAC and roofing project, we believe will be out of DSA in November, and that would be a viable summer 2025 project. Forestville Gym Boiler, we just got the plans today. Actually, we'll start the bidding process pretty quickly here with anticipated, we'll be anticipate bringing that to the October board meeting for authorization to award that contract. The Sunset Taft pedestrian crosswalk has been completed. I've used it several times. It's very nice. I do, however, wish that they would have repaired the asphalt closer to the Student Services Center side, but what do you do? Very thankful for that project to be done. Annalee Stadium repairs project. The next 4 projects are going to come to you in September. We're going to go over the schematic design, the budget, especially discuss the priorities project because based on where these are all landing right now, we will not have enough bond funds to fund all 4 projects. So that'll be the stadium, the main gym modernization and or new gym. That'll be further explained at September's meeting. The East Wing modernization with classrooms L1 and L2 and or the cafeteria modernization. Those will all 4 be discussed at the next board meeting in pretty great detail. We really worked hard with our site staff to develop really nice scope of work and nice projects there. E-rate project is almost complete. That's just infrastructure, making sure we got Wi-Fi access and good cabling across the district. We also had some miscellaneous projects over the summer. If you've been over at the district office, the main office, we did some work in there. We replaced the carpet, we redid the ceiling, and painted some of the interior doors. We did not have enough time to paint all the offices, although that is a goal for next year. Laguna signage, the sign manufacturer's CNC machine went down. Of course it did. Why wouldn't it? That's the way it works. And so that just arrived a couple of weeks ago. We actually went to go pick up some of our district office signs today that we ordered to have those replaced in our main entry areas. And we got to see the sign. It is larger than I expected, and it is so pretty with the bright lights. I can't wait for them to finish that. But we have the contractor out there prepping the base, pulling the electrical, switching the electrical from 110 to 220. So that's coming to fruition a little bit later than we anticipated, but nevertheless, it's coming. We also have some projects or a project that we're going to start at the Laguna High School campus. It's more of a refresh. we'll be looking to have the board kind of bless and authorize that project at the next board meeting. But it would be basically repairing asphalt, slurry seal, painting the entire campus, dealing with some of the dry rot, removal of old dilapidated portables that are no longer in good condition or any kind of condition, along with some other things that we'll address with the board.
Is the tennis court on that list?
We had the tennis courts evaluated, and the tennis courts are not salvageable. They're not a good. I believe what the civil engineer said is, I wouldn't put another dollar into the tennis courts in this location. If you want tennis courts at that campus, I would relocate them. And the reason for that is that they're at the most subterranean level of the whole entire campus, and water trickles down, and that retaining wall is not weatherproofed. And so all the water is getting underneath. You would basically have to start completely over. You'd rip everything out. You put in so much drainage. And he said you'd be better off just building tennis courts somewhere else on the campus. So,
Plan for that?
huh?
You don't have a plan for that, though?
We don't have money for that.
As you know, we've really made an effort to continue to engage and further engage with our community in the far west. And for the last 2 years, I've heard a lot of frustration from our taxpayers with regard to the effects of the consolidation and the redirection of a lot of the bond monies as we relocated our comprehensive school on this campus. So for several reasons, like we take a lot of pride in that campus. It's a beautiful campus. We've got an amazing existing program. We've got a vision to create an additional program and have that three-pronged effect under the Laguna High School umbrella. It's something that the community takes pride in. We talk about the 4 pillars of the community school in first and foremost benefiting our students, but providing opportunities for the residents of Forestville and the greater Russian River to be able to utilize that campus. When I drive to that campus, I can see how it might make our taxpayers feel, our alumni feel, when they look at that aging building. Now, granted, they don't see some of the other structural upgrades and the dollars that were put in. It's not easy to see roofing and HVAC, but it is to see a facelift of that campus. So to show our commitment to preserving our beautiful Forestville campus, I gave Jenny some direction and she's run with it. And I'm really, really excited to lob this one up for board approval. I told Jenny I wanted to spend at least $1 million of our remaining bond funds to upgrade that campus and really brighten it up for the current students there. And we know that this is the year in which we put all of our nuts and bolts in order to launch our new program in 25-26. And early in the spring, we're going to be recruiting for those teachers and those prospective students. Now, the informational session that I have tomorrow night, without undermining the board, I want to talk about some of that and our plans and intentions to preserve and upgrade that campus. I think it's going to mean a lot to the residents of the far west and our alumni and our former teachers, but also the current teachers that show up and call that campus home. We want a sense of pride there. So I'm really, really excited about what Jenny's got in the queue. And obviously, we pulled the bond. It wasn't the right time, but we know there are needs that we will hope to address in 2026. So I think that those things that we discussed, including the tennis courts and other potential modernizations, would be a part of those future plans. So I'm really, really excited about it. A freshly painted school that will match that beautiful performing arts center and give the campus flow and a sense of pride for those students and those staff. That's what's coming forward to you in September. And I want to thank Jenny for acknowledging some of my specific requests. I want those panels removed that are under the awning. I mean, just the little things are going to make a huge difference. And that first piece is obviously that signage. So I think this is something that aligns with our vision of creating programs that we believe are data driven, both qualitative and quantitative in terms of what our families need. And I've reiterated, and I'll continue to reiterate, where this process started in 2022 when the board gave me authorization to create that design team. And I'm really excited to host tomorrow's informational session. And then my intention is to take that same informational session on the road. I'm going to talk to Forestville, Monterey, Guerneville. I want to take that same slide deck and have that conversation with folks. And we heard this when we went to the Russian River meeting, and I keep hearing it. And I want to show our community that we're listening. So just wanted to add to that. I'm really, really excited about prioritizing the projects that we need on this campus, but really beautifying and modernizing the Forestville campus.
So back to the tennis course.
Yeah.
Future project. We don't have.
Can I recommend though that you address that tomorrow night? 'Cause I think you might get asked about it.
Yeah.
And I wanted just to, Chris was very clear on what he wanted done at that campus. And I made some additional recommendations with some areas that we could easily refresh. And as classes come back online, we could refresh, but I don't want to take away from the fact that we've replaced carpet in all the classrooms that are currently in use. We've, added some, we've done a lot of stuff at that campus to keep and preserve it. Just this summer, we hired a company called Circuit Rider to really work on our perimeter of the campus. We have 40 plus acres of massive vegetation that surrounds our neighborhood. And we are responsible for keeping fire breaks. And we're working with Sonoma County Fire Department and making sure that we address all those things along with our neighbors. So we are constantly responding to any neighbor concern. And that's just something you guys don't always get to see or hear. Nobody takes a trip out to the, far, deep center field where Hendrix meets our property and sees all the vegetation that we've cleaned out there, or way down on Winter, I think it's Winter Road, which is a private road past Van Keppel. We do a lot of work with our community out there. And I just make sure that you guys are aware that anytime we get a neighbor complaint, whether it's at this campus or at the Laguna campus, we're extremely responsive to our community. And we take that stuff very seriously because I'm an advocate for facilities, and so is our team. We want it to be a good representation of what the work that we do, but it's also sometimes a little daunting. We can't keep up with all of it. But I also wanted to just daylight, in addition to the projects that we're going to bring to you next month, we're also going to be bringing some consultant contracts so that we can have them help prepare us with a set of biddable documents. And then we'll be preparing all the CEQA documents that go along with all these projects that we're recommending. And those CEQA documents will likely contain work that we can't afford right now, but under the guise of CEQA, they want you to approve the totality of the project. So just those things are going to be coming forward. And, CEQA.
Those tennis courts like
Annalee?
No, at Laguna.
The Laguna tennis courts are less than optimal. They're in poor condition, and there's nothing. I started here 11 years ago. 8 or 9 years ago, we resurfaced and repaired those tennis courts. A repair and resurface should last you 10 to 15 years. It didn't. And the reason it didn't even last 5 years, it is literally water. You've got water coming from behind there, and you've got water sheeting down. And when I specifically said, hey, while you guys are out there evaluating all this stuff, so if you go out to the Laguna campus, you're going to see arrows and stuff blocked off because we had civil out there pretty quickly addressing all the asphalt conditions. Look at the tennis courts for me. And they said, there's no hope unless you start over.
Just sort of sad. I know the community uses our tennis.
They do. The fire department uses them. They love the tennis courts.
I mean, I think it's something that would be in my vision. I think that we learned through exploring the feasibility of a bond measure that we've got some work to do to repair some trust and show folks that we really care, and that we're putting the projects and our money where our mouth is. And so I think through some of the work that we intend to do, I hope to earn a little bit more of that trust. And when we explore the feasibility of going out for a bond measure in 26, I hope to see the polling come back a lot more favorable. As we know, West County's really been in favor of school bonds, and this wasn't the right time. But I think that that's a project that I envision creating pickleball courts. And if we've got to move it, we move it. If we've got to change the levels to bring it above subterranean ground. This isn't my area of expertise, but I listened to Jenny and I
Let's go relocate it. Would be easier.
relocating it, but and continue to build upon the four
Make it a pool.
pillars of a community school.
Well, that might bring a few people in wanting more tennis courts. I've heard so much about tennis courts as it is. Okay.
Well, the tennis courts are very near and dear to both communities. I hear a lot from the tennis people, and don't ever shut their courts down. Ever.
So, yes. Do you have a question, Loretta?
I say the microphone because when we go back and listen to this, we cannot hear you because you have to remember everything's being piped through my computer.
Okay. I just was going to give some input. When we redid the Anley tennis courts the last time, we partnered with the tennis association, and they paid a lot of the money to have them done. And so that's one of the reasons here and at Regal Park that they can't be turned into pickleball courts, because the tennis association paid for them and they don't want pickleball courts.
Well, that's a little kind of uppity.
They did make a contribution to the tennis courts, but it is the district's property and you have the right to do what you want with your property. So if you wanted to convert them to pickleball courts, you absolutely can. Not that.
Well, I don't know anything
that
about pickleball, to be honest.
It's very loud. And we used to have pickleball courts in the parking lot. They are very loud. Very loud.
Oh, that's not good.
Super engaging.
They could go there.
But yeah, I had an Anna League tennis player, so it's near and dear to my heart.
That is my report for tonight with the state of the facilities. Just maybe one little thing. My custodial maintenance and grounds crew worked so hard this summer to clean every single classroom. And we usually systematically clean in a way that starts from the second story to the first story to the basement to the east wing to the portables. And we could not do any of that. And so they were losing their minds cleaning the best that they could. And we just had to double down those efforts to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And thank you, Lily, for your kudos to our staff. Our tech staff worked really hard as well. And so I'm just really proud of the team that I have. Denise, Francisco, I can never remember all their dang names when I name them off, but they're the most wonderful people and they do everything for the school district. They take a lot of pride in their work. And if you get a chance, say thank you.
Would you please send our thanks and appreciation?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not policy, but
The SBA doesn't recommend that being a policy.
it's actually found out it's not that expensive. And it was so nice to be able to have it done. And I don't disagree that we should aim for that more regularly.
I also just want to add that I haven't spoken about this to my class yet, but I recently lost my backpack and I had to come back to the school and find the custodial staff and help them out. But I'm going to talk to Coach Brown, the leadership teacher, and my classmates about finding a way where we can show our appreciation and thank them and make sure that the freshmen and just the community knows how hard they work and how they're such good people and that kind of thing. So I also want to put that out there. I want
Maybe you guys could just even make some signs.
Yeah,
some big
absolutely.
posters that say thanks so they can see.
They love donuts.
They really do.
I'll write that down right now.
I can tell you that it goes a long way.
Yeah.
When the students are ambassadors of their community and they respect the custodial staff, that's when you start seeing less of those issues in the bathroom and more appreciation for the grounds that your feet step on every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Consideration of approval of public art request from Annalee Alumni Association, a commemorative plaque honoring West County Union High School District alumni of the Vietnam War. Can I have a motion?
I would like to move approval, please.
And second? Great. All right.
sometimes we get requests for commemorative plaques or other than just art, and we felt like this was the most appropriate place for it. So Chris accepted the request from Loretta Castleberry, and it's pretty much presented as I've written the board item. They would be providing the plaque. It would be placed on an existing rock. And I'm happy to answer any further questions. And I'm sure Loretta would be able to answer anything if you had questions of her.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment. I want to point out that we do have a public art policy, and it wasn't attached to the item. It's policy 71522. And the procedure, according to our board policy, is to convene a public art committee to review the request prior to bringing it to the board. And I think it's really important to get the student body perspective. There's certain elements in the board policy that speak to the artwork, identifying the building as a student-centered environment, having artistic merit, have feasible profile staff development or support teacher-directed classroom projects. And those aren't addressed in these materials. And I don't know if there's a rush to put something like this through, but I think just to honor the process, I think it would be really nice to go through that process and maybe even find some ways for the students to be more involved in it so that it has some meaning.
That's a great comment. I have never been able to convene a committee for any of the public art that has come forward to the board because of the time in which it comes, or basically the student needs to get it done. So every time this board has approved a mural or public art, it's been done so without a formal committee. In fact, as I was reviewing this particular one, I had that in mind. I was like, we need to amend our policy that says,
If possible.
if possible, because it becomes a little. Let me go back a second. I pushed to have this policy because we get so many requests for murals. I wanted there to be a process that had to take place. And I modeled that policy after other places that had the ability to convene a committee. And then I realized what I was being asked to do myself. And I realized I put myself in that situation. And it's just been kind of impractical. But I do hear what you're saying. Maybe there's a process where it goes through leadership and they discuss it some way, shape, or form that prior to it getting to us, because that's normally with a public mural. It's coming from the student body, a student who's at the campus, or a class that's doing something, which is very different. I think with these memorial plaques, they don't really have a board policy that they fit in per se. And so we're trying to go, hey, maybe this makes sense here, but yeah.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying. And this was one of those gray areas. I didn't think that we had a place for it per se. And usually I put a little line in there that I didn't have enough time to convene a committee.
You did.
Oh, did I? See, I can't even remember what I wrote last week.
Well, maybe we could put that on a future agenda to look at the art policy and talk about amending it and how that would benefit the process better.
Sure. But in the meantime, I don't necessarily feel comfortable not getting the input that is recommended here, especially when, it's sort of a slippery slope. Somebody asks us to put up a plaque. How do we decide which plaques we put up? We do have the Veterans Building here in Sebastopol. That may be a more appropriate place than a public school for something like this. I think having it skip the process altogether does have a bit of a red flag on it.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, I'd like to address that. There's two reasons why it needs to be on the Anley campus. One reason is because these 8 men, happen to be men, were all students of Anley High School who were killed in action in Vietnam. There was no El Molino High School at that time, but there are 3 people, if there had been an El Molino High School, would have attended El Molino High School. So I think it is it's unifying event that we can do to unify the entire district. I mean, Jerry Parmeter came as far away as Cazadero. We want to have a dedication of this, hopefully on a football game that's close to Veterans Day. We want to invite all the families of these eight people who were killed. The language of it will be the same language that is on the wall in Washington, D.C. with their name, where the year, I don't know exactly what it says, but where they were killed. And I think having it at the Veterans Building is not the same. We have on Anley already, Thibodeau, but I can't remember his first name. Rudy, not Thibodeau, Thyler. Rudy Thyler. And there is a little thing already on the school. He was the first one killed in World War II. And so it is honorable. It is unifying. It is everything that we want to embody to these families, that we have not forgotten these 8 individuals. And they were students here. And so I think that's why it needs to be here.
And then I guess maybe you have this information, I'm not sure. Subsequently, since the Vietnam War, there have been a lot of other wars. Have there been other students ever who have died?
No, I couldn't tell you. There might be.
Jeannie's husband is with the Veterans of Foreign War. It's a basketball. He may know. I personally do not know. But I know there was one El Molino person, not Danny Ottolini, but his last name was Ottolini, who was killed in Iraq. Can you help me, Mary? That's the one other person from the area, but no Anley students.
And I think it's a reasonable and honorable request. I also will sincerely apologize to our Alumni Association that I didn't include this really good news off topic that they have donated $20,000 for future theater projects recently. And so I apologize that I didn't include that. But I was reminded of this, and I think that the support and the financial support that the alumni has provided our district has been truly remarkable. And I'm making that recommendation. I know the item is written as district administration. I think we all would agree that this is an honorable thing to acknowledge. So thank you for that.
I would definitely agree. It's an honorable thing, and I definitely am supportive of it, and I'm supportive of whatever the board would like us to do. There are some areas of our policies where we could probably sharpen a pencil as it relates to plaques versus art versus some other things. So that's certainly something that we could work on together, especially since I really drove the public art, because we get so many more mural requests when I'm a little sensitive to.
I think it's really a good idea to honor alumni. Like, I felt it was a good idea to honor the El Molino alumni with maintaining their memorabilia. I think this is a great thing to do, to honor our alumni of our school. I think it's great.
I have a question. You implied it, Loretta, but did you consult the families?
No, I haven't been. I was waiting to get approval before I contact the families.
To see if
but their names are on the Vietnam Wall, so.
No, I understand that. I just think that would be important.
Oh, yeah, I definitely want to but I didn't want to put the cart before the horse is what I was thinking.
Right.
And Sean, I may need to get you to get me a couple of names.
Hey.
I'm willing to support this. And I think actually I'm willing to support this. But I also think what Debbie's brought up is important. Because I thought about that. It's a little bit like the flag policy. It's like, well, we support the particular ask, but does that mean any flag anywhere? I mean, how many other plaques for other reasons that also seem important get approved without there being some kind of standard or policy to reflect on? So
that is why I suggested it be put on the agenda.
I'm willing to support it here, but I also think we need to have a policy. Otherwise, it's arbitrary. We're just arbitrarily saying, "Oh, well, we like you, so we'll do it," but we don't like you, so we're not going to do that.
I would be
And with that,
policy back if that was something that the agenda team gave some direction to us. Then, because I know that this language was probably optional language for this policy.
So, Louis, to the point that you just made, when students came forward to request this flag, they were put off for months and months and months until we had the policy discussion. So I'm just wondering
Debbie, let's not go there. You're
Want to have that argument?
I don't.
Don't.
Yeah,
Don't go there.
As AOC said, baby girl, don't go there.
So I just wonder what the student perception is going to be of an ask like this. And then when it's
we have our student board rep here. Alina, can you?
one student, she hasn't had a chance to ask the student body, but if you have something, an opinion.
I think I'm very new to this position and very, very new to all these policies that
Very
I
different.
just have a strong opinional discussion on. I don't think I can make this is just a thought I had right when you suggested this. I think it's very important and honorable and strong. And my one concern was that it might just be sensitive to some families and to some views on like that kind of political, not necessarily statement, but then I also just agree that those are students that dedicated their time and their lives. And yeah, I do think I think you guys were discussing putting that as an agenda item of its own. Is that what you guys were saying? Revising a policy? Yeah. That's a good idea. I think it's its own thing. I think it's a wonderful idea though. Yeah.
Any other? Okay, are we ready to vote?
And we're voting to what?
But approve the plaque on the rock.
Before discussing the policy.
Yes, then we'll bring the policy back because this doesn't really fall necessarily. We don't all agree that it actually falls within the policy that we have. We put plaques up before without doing that. But we all have agreed that we would like to relook at the policy, correct? So we will put that on the agenda, future agenda. So right now we're just voting for the public art request from the Alumni Association to have a commemorative plaque honoring West County Union High School District alumni of the Vietnam War.
Okay.
We had a motion.
So I would just like to say that personally, I can't support this the way it is right now because we do have this policy. And ideally, I would like to get whether it be the public art committee format. I would like to hear more from more of our stakeholders before making a decision. So I won't be able to support this.
Say about that is I agree that we need a policy, but all the plaques that we had put previously didn't fall under it. So you're kind of singling this one out to fall and to come under these new rules that we have yet to determine. So because it's
the one that I recall is the mural with the Zen.
I know, but we kind of agreed or talked about that this doesn't really fall under the category of
public art
things, right?
Right.
So we clearly need a policy, which we're going to agendize, and this is what we're going to vote on. So if you can't vote for it, I understand.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Let's see, that brings us to the end of our meeting. So thank you everybody for attending and we are adjourned.